they use cannabis for cookies and brownies, in pepper soup, and also infuse it in drinks.
They take hard drugs like syrup, tramadol, diazepam, cocaine, shisha mix, among others.
Drug is already here with us, and it's not something palatable at all.
While over 36 million people suffered from drug use disorders.
All too soon, it is the 10th anniversary of Realnews magazine. As a way of being socially responsible, the celebration was hinged on creating awareness of a prevalent issue in the society, which is of concern to all. With the arrival of invited guests at the choice venue of Sheraton Hotel and Towers, Ikeja, the event started in earnest with the preliminaries of guest recognition, preceded by the opening prayers.
Father, bless us then with your presence, so that through this gathering, our own mission and purpose as servant leaders, journalists, and responsible citizens will be much clearer. In the end, may you take this organization to greater heights, and through doing their duty, and we doing ours, your blessings will be made more manifest to this beautiful country, Nigeria, which remains your enduring gift to us like no other. We beg this prayer through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
The welcome address by Maureen Chigbo, the publisher, editor of Realnews magazine, who is also the convener, hinged on the reason for the theme of the anniversary celebration, while appreciating the high caliber of our guests, including the attendance of our colleagues, members of Fourth Estate of the Realm.
The anniversary lecture series is one of the ways Realnews contributes to nation building and development by providing a forum for policy change-oriented discussion by professionals, scholars, technocrats, decision makers on the way forward for our great nation and Africa in general. May I, before I proceed, announce and welcome those who are also online. And I can see Professor Kifele was my lecturer in the university. Prof, you are welcome. In 2014, we focused on elections. In 2015, the theme was on the economy. 2016, the discussion was on security. 2017, it was on the challenges of leadership in Africa. And in 2018, we dealt with Africa's political transitions and the economy. In 2019, the focus was on the economic narrative for West Africa, beyond politics, with the soft in the end of oil, without the Nigeria economy. And Madam, your president, former President Mahama, delivered that lecture. So I have had a lot of links with Canadians. Last year, during COVID-19, we focused on managing COVID-19 global pandemic in Africa, the Nigeria experience. Last year, our choice was on Nigeria in the folding integration of the African market, the oil and gas perspective. This year, we zeroed in on drug abuse among youth in Africa, implication for Nigerian economy, and 2023 elections. Because of our deep concern about the nefarious effect of drug on our youth, we watched viral videos of how Ulummili, one of the drugs they call Ulummili, is wrecking the lives of not just our young people, but old people too. We heard stories of how students indulge in antisocial behaviors, and some even go to the extent of damaging school buildings to pilfer roofs to sell to meet their drug needs. Drug abuse has been linked to incidents of violence and insecurity in the country. There have been also talks that the psychological well-being of all the governorship and presidential candidates has to be subjected evaluated to ensure that they are qualified for public office. This is an ongoing discussion. All these are genuine concerns, given that the World Drug Report 2021 showed that in Nigeria alone, 14.14%, the drug use prevalence is significantly higher than the global average. Globally, over 11 million people are estimated to inject drugs, half of whom are living with hepatitis C. Opioids continue to account for the largest drug burden of disease attributed to drug use. Around 275 million people use drugs worldwide in the last year, while over 36 million people suffered from drug use disorders, according to 2021 World Drug Report, released recently by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. As the 2018 National Drug Use Survey revealed, in Nigeria, at that particular point in time, there were around 14.3 million drug users, of which close to 3 million suffered from drug use disorder. The World Drug Report further noted that in the last 24 years, cannabis potency had increased by as much as 4 times in parts of the world, even as the percentages of adolescents who perceived the drug as harmful fell by as much as 40%, despite evidence that cannabis use is associated with a variety of health and other harms, especially among regular long-term users. A worrisome trend, considering that there are 11 million cannabis users in Nigeria, a third of whom seem to be regular users with a need for drug counseling.
The ceremony was blessed with Mrs. Elizabeth Ngozi Ebe. As the chairman of the occasion, she further buttressed on the timeliness of the focus on drug abuse, as the consequences can be far-reaching in the society.
We're talking about drug abuse. What is drug abuse? It's defined as habitual taking of illegal drugs in the context of international drug control. Drug abuse constitutes the use of any substance under international control outside therapeutic indications in excessive dose levels or over an unjustified period of time. And who are the youths? It is the time of life when one is young and often means the time between childhood and adulthood. But it can also mean one's peak in terms of health or the period of life known as being a young adult. And we talk about the economy. What is the economy? It encompasses all the activities related to production, consumption, and trade of goods and services in an entity, whether this entity is a nation or whether it's a small town. The NDLA said recent statistics have revealed that 40% of Nigerian youth between the ages of 18 and 35 years are deeply involved in abuse of drugs. The current health situation of Nigerian youth is disheartening and worrisome, considering the engagement into these drug abuses. They take hard drugs like syrup, tramadol, diazepam, cocaine, shisha mix, among others. I don't even know any of these drugs. I don't even have an idea what they look like. But it's become so prevalent in the economy, in our society, that it's really, really scary. The societies we live in are predominantly made up of unskilled young persons who indulge in drug abuse and cannot be regarded as healthy in a developed country, since the abusers lose their potentialities to this activity. It's said that Nigeria is the most populous nation in Africa and number 3 in the world. Meanwhile, 40% of that number is not impacting on the economy. So that is a source of concern. There are numerous consequences of drug abuse, and it ranges from volume of untimely deaths, such as suicides. Every day we hear about suicide, people drinking snipers, people wanting to jump into the ocean. There are road accidents that can be testified by the road safety because people are on drugs. There's laziness, there's mediocrity, and subsequently it translates to impoverishment. To this end, homes are broken, dreams are shattered, potential manpower is wasted as drug abusers struggle to sustain the habits embedded in this subculture. They therefore become burdens to themselves, to the families, the society, and the country at large. Unfortunately, young persons who are supposed to shoulder Nigeria's future development in terms of socio-economic aspect are constant promoters of this subculture and antisocial activity of drug abuse. With all the aforementioned, it can be drawn that the effects of drug abuse can really be divided into two primary domains, which are the social effects and the economic effects. On the social front, it has its own financial losses, which comes from the stress that is being suffered by alcohol and drug-related crime victims, increases in burdens for the support of adolescents and young adults who are not able to become self-supporting, and greater demands for medical and other treatment services for the youth. Relationship with crime and crime-related activities like robbery, burglary, rape, vandalism, destruction of public properties, kidnapping, and banditry, they're all associated to drug abuse. The congestion of the penitentiaries, where the government spends more in the maintenance of prisoners, instead of using those funds to cater for the depleting infrastructure and all the other things that we need to do as a nation.
We must give it up for the organizers for their prowess in getting Brigadier General Buba Marwa, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, to deliver the main lecture on drug abuse among the youth in Africa, implication for Nigerian economy and 2023 elections. His presentation was done after a brief citation on him.
Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, otherwise known as NDLEA, was appointed in January 2021. Prior to this, he served as governor of Lagos State from 1996 to 1999 during the military regime of General Sani Abacha and General Abdul Salami Abubakar. He also served as the governor of Borno State from 1990 to 1992 during the regime of General Ibrahim Babangida.
The presentation today is titled Drug Abuse Among Youths in Africa, Implication for Nigerian Economy and 2023 Election. Drug abuse among youths is an issue that cannot be ignored in today's world because it is a growing concern for all countries and a problem area for humanity. In the past 2 decades, we have seen a dramatic rise in drug abuse around the world, and more than ever before, the situation is becoming complicated and dire. In Africa, where countries are struggling with development issues, it is recognized that the prevalence of drug use among youths will negatively impact the future of our continent. Therefore, countries must attend to this problem. Just as we devote energy, time, and resources to climate change to save the planet, we must also deploy the same strength, sentiment, and systems to curb drug abuse among youths to secure the future of present and coming generations. Nigeria, in particular, cannot afford to trivialize the drug abuse menace in light of the country's illicit drug statistics. This is why every opportunity for public discourse on this subject matter is highly appreciated, because keeping drug issues on the front burner in society is one way of catalyzing solutions to the scourge. On this note, I would like to thank the management of Realnews magazine for their foresight to have this presentation on a very important day as the 10th anniversary of your esteemed organization. Now, what do we know about drug abuse by our youth? To start with, Nigerians are not ignorant about drug trafficking and drug abuse issues. The activities of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, in the last 22 months have given our society a clear picture, certainty, and the severity of the drug problem in the country. The arrests of over 19,000 drug offenders and subsequent conviction of 3,111, in addition to the seizure of 5.5 million kilograms of assorted drugs in 22 months, are incontrovertible facts of a deeply entrenched illicit drug subculture that we have. Previously, many Nigerians found it hard to believe that illicit drugs such as cocaine and heroin are trafficked in and out of the country. But NDLEA has made huge seizures and there is no basis for skepticism anymore. If anything, NDLEA activities since January 2021 have further reinforced the facts of Nigeria being an important hub in the global illicit drug network, and secondly, that our country is not only a transit pipeline, but also a market. Similarly, Nigerians cannot pretend not to know now that our young people are abusing illicit drugs because youths have an overt drug lifestyle. Youths of today promote the drug subculture themselves. It is common nowadays to hear them say they want to get high. It is there on the street, in songs, in chat rooms, in clubs, and in parties. Many youths crave alcohol and weed as soon as they run into any emotional situations. For parents who are adept at using social media, Snapchat offers graphic details of what our young people are doing with alcohol and psychotropic drugs. The empirical facts around us speak volumes about how young people are abusing dangerous substances. However, we may not have a grasp of the depth of this decadence until we begin to see statistics and other data. I will highlight a few facts from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC World Drug Report 2021 and 2022, and I quote. The first quotation here, it says, more young people are using drugs compared with previous generations. Another quotation, young people continue to use more drugs than adults and have higher levels of use than in past generations. Another one, there is a 10% prevalence of cannabis use among 15 to 16 years old Africans. These facts and figures sum up the situation. But we must also be honest to admit that society is also partly to blame for the rise in drug abuse among our youths. Let's take cannabis for an example. There is no gainsaying that the incident of more youths abusing the psychoactive plant is fueled by society sending wrong messages to people. Today, you have all sorts of pro-cannabis groups movements, and activists all over the place. They make it seem as if smoking cannabis is innocuous and not dangerous to health, and therefore should be an inalienable right of the smoker. Even some politicians and institutions focus on the economic gains to be made on the cultivation of cannabis. And they are suggesting that we should liberalize the commercialization of the plant. All of these send mixed messages to young people. Already the damage is done because research shows that, one, the perceptions of cannabis harms have decreased in areas where the drug has been legalized. So people in those areas believe that there's no harm in taking cannabis. Two, in some parts of the world, for example, cannabis products have almost quadrupled in potency, and yet the percentage of adolescents who perceive cannabis as harmful has dropped by as much as 40%, despite the evidence linking regular use to health problems, particularly in young people, and despite the correlation between potency and harm. These are facts from year-long researches conducted by UNODC and published in the annual World Drug Report. So what do we have today? We have young people vaping, inhaling cannabis-infused shisha, and experimenting with synthetic cannabis and other potent variants such as Loud and Colorado. Imagine the names, Loud and Colorado. Still on cannabis, the findings from the National Drug Use Survey released in 2018 indicated that Nigeria is Africa's leading abuser of the psychoactive plant, and certainly one of the leading countries using cannabis in the world. We have 10.6 million of our compatriots, mostly youths, who abuse marijuana and other cannabis derivatives. Alarmingly, some of them started using the substance between the ages of 13 and 17, with the largest pool of users in their early 30s. Still, the activities of the past 22 months in NDLEA have given us further insights, and we now know that aside from smoking, they use cannabis for cookies and brownies, in pepper soup, and also infuse it in drinks. Other dangerous substances frequently abused by young people in this country include crystal methamphetamine, Miri, as is well known locally, and other pharmaceutical opioids, mostly tramadol and codeine, which are used to produce dangerous mixtures like scotches, which are consumed in parties.
The lecture was insightful and thought-provoking, which paved way for other eminent and erudite discussants to further espouse the topic from different perspectives in a panel session.
From my field experience, we need to get back to our families and be their friends. We need to go back. The culture of eating together, praying together is virtually finished in most homes. And see all the money you are running after. One of the cheapest rehabs in Abuja now is 650,000 naira per month. There is one somebody took me to, they said 75,000 naira per night. I say, is it? Yeah, 7-star. They say you can drive in, just drive in, you have a night, drive out. I say, ah. So, as simple as it is, get back to your family. Be their friends. Stop the blame game. Their mother don't spoil them. You are the head of this family. Get back and find a way around your wife that is spoiling them. It's because you are not available. And he has to find peace with the children that are available. So she looks like she's compromising. You that she wants to play with, you are not around. Let us sort out our home front. This is very, very key. These boys you are not willing to talk to, bad guys are hanging around to talk to them. Believe me, and if you react wrongly to it, you can start things bad from that moment. Because it's strange to him. Every other father, they do that to their children. They go to their friend's house, and you are being strict as a Catholic, as a Muslim. No. So please get back, number one. Number two, deliberately bring these things to the table. A lot of things that we must not mention when we were growing up. These days, you bring it to the table and discuss it. Because this is the thing you are hiding is in his palm. It's in his hand, in the phone you bought for him. So open it up. We do not have too much time. Please. Like Chairperson said, this is not time for lamentation. But if I don't tell you what is happening, real, you will think that it's a story far away. A general called me one night at 23rd of December. I'm in the toilet now. I can't come out because I don't want to kill this boy. Please come and carry him, whatever you want to do with him. Thank God, all that is there. They are best of friends now. And if you already have this challenge, please don't abandon these boys. It could be dealt with. It's they go in, go out, go in, go out, but you find out that it's part of the rehabilitation. Please confront your challenges. Stop hoping that somebody else will come and solve it for you. The people that God sent all these prophets to, without any budget, they had nothing. And they were able to conquer the world. And that's what makes you and myself, Christian and Muslims today. They didn't run away. But from your small house, you run away and go and be drinking somewhere, hoping that when you just come, your children will just become, no. Go and stay with them. Again, this little help, you go to the village and give, helps us a lot. That's why we still have some of them. They have not become complete animals. Please show concern. Show concern. Oh, what's your result? Oh, this is a beautiful result. It's a question of time. Things are bad now, but you have done very well on your own part. This thing will hold him on for a while, that somebody at least still cares. But before they kill you, you lock your door, bam. Your children will have to come out later. What can help us to have peace is the hope of these young people. When they thoroughly become hopeless, we're all in trouble and endangered. So give hope. 2, 3, 4, 5 people in a day, which does not cost a penny. Just asking, oh, what level are you now? Level 10. Oh, great. Like yesterday. You know, he knows that somebody is monitoring his career. He's not willing to destroy his name. Oh, this man remembers when I came in. These little things, when it goes round, we can all be at peace. Somebody who can kill his mother, that the mother is shouting did not affect his mind. Because the mind is no longer there. And you were thinking that you were talking to Tokubo. Tokubo is no longer inside this body you are seeing. It is drug. You are talking to drugs. So I pray that in order not to make this look like waste of resources, please let us not drop these papers. Let us see how everybody begins to act today.
Substance abuse is equal opportunity disorder. That is, anyone can be involved in it. Anyone. And it's so easy to be involved in. From Chiapas, we won't go into the dynamics of it, but I'll just say this. When you see young people go to parties, that can be the beginning. Eating with his friends in the institution can be the beginning. So we all need to wake up to the reality of the substance abuse disorder problem. And until we assume this to be a public health issue, we will not get answer. If we think we need to punish, we need to have draconian laws, we will not get an answer. What do I mean by this? People say, oh, when people use drugs, they can relapse. Sure, they can relapse. But hypertensive relapse, diabetics relapse. So until we see substance abuse in the same dimension, we will not get any result. But I'd like to go to what we can do. I'm involved in a rehabilitation center. We have 2 centers actually. One is in Ekpe, where we rehabilitate people who've been on drugs for 10, 20, 30 years. They live on the street. They come, we run it free. We take people twice a year. Then we have another center in Abeokuta. We were forced to start because people were beginning to assume that students are addicts. Students, professionals who use drugs are not necessarily addicts. They are occasional users, they are experimental users, they are social users. And we need to offer them help. So we started this center where we can meet them. They can stay for 3 months, they get rehab, and they return to school and graduate. Many of them are doctors and lawyers today. So what I'm saying is there is hope. And until we understand that these people need help, that's what they need. They don't need stigmatization. They don't need punishment. Because I like to say this. Addicts, young people who use drugs are victims. The people that we should punish are the people who deal in drugs, that the NDLA, Otumba are catching. Those are the people. If you understand that someone can sit in VGC and bring in tramadol, then you can begin to understand. And unfortunately, the tramadol they bring is not the hospital tramadol. The prescription in the hospital is 50 or 100 milligrams, but the ones they bring start from about 225 milligrams. And so you can begin to understand the devilishness in the hearts of people when they bring things like, and I can say to you that NDLA is talking about fentanyl. I can bet you that fentanyl is already being used in Nigeria. And fentanyl is 100 times more potent than heroin. And it's in pills, it's in nasal spray, and it's like sweet. They do it in colors to attract young people. But let me now go to what can we do? The media is so critical. You know why I worry with the media? Media is too sensational. They carry on, they sort that. That's not the point. Educating the people is much more important. Creating awareness, sensitizing people is much more important. And I do say to them when they want to interview me, don't interview me, that's tokenism. Let me take you to the joints, the drug joints where these people stay. Do a survey, do a series on it, do something on TV on it, and let people realize that this is real. But when you write on June 26th, everybody walks away. What about June 27th? What about today? And I can say to you today that there is no institution in this country that does not have a drug problem. None. Whether private university or not. None. And you know the danger we run that we do not understand, particularly the corporate bodies these days. When you speak to them, they try to run, they say, oh, we don't want our brands associated. But I tell you, already in your company, you got drug users. The NYC said last year that about 40% of coppers are on drugs. Where do they end up? They end up in your offices. They end up in schools. They end up in society. And if we then don't begin to do something, we're going to get into trouble. So what do? The NDLA is doing a lot. Let us have more centers where people can come in without stigma and get treated and return to work. I can tell that our pilots in Nigeria today flying that use drugs. Doctors use drugs. Lawyers use drugs. Judges use drugs. So if we sit down here and then begin to think it's just the exclusive preserve of motor boys, we're deceiving ourselves. Lecturers do drugs. We know. I know. You know, that's some of the things we do. We externalize. We deflect the reality of what is happening. That is our challenge as the people and the media today, to wake up and begin to do something. Not just write news about what had happened, but what can we do? And I think an area where it's so important is religious organizations. The chairman mentioned it. That is where you see a lot more people than gatherings like this.
First of all, when we're looking at substance abuse or drug, we're talking, we call them drugs. And Dr. Adedeji has spoken, and many people have spoken, and sometimes the families are the ones who make the diagnosis even before they come to us. But the only thing that we do now is to do a proper assessment and know some of the reasons why the person is abusing one drug or the other. He might abuse a depressant or a stimulant depending on the need. I mean, if I have low self-esteem. I cannot talk in front of my friends. I may then go and take something that will stimulate my anxiety. I'll be able to talk. If I am depressed, I need something to lift my mind, I can also go and take something. So they have a lot of reasons. But when we would look at substance use generally, you know, most of the times or before the ages, people are looking at it as a moral problem. That this person does not go to church, that's why he abuses drugs. That is the moral theory. Then we have the social learning theory that somebody has seen his friend use, I think the peer pressure. Then he wants to try and he learns how to do it. But in all this, the evidence base says that addiction, substance use is a biological disease. And when you look at it from that point, then you will try to understand whoever is using it as going through a lot and needs to be helped. Then it goes also to say that addiction is a family disease, because when one person is abusing it in the family, the whole family suffers. So, having said this, then how do we go forward to help those who are in this quagmire? Initially, nobody wants to look. Some people will tell you, I'm only using, I'm not an addict. Yeah, a lot of people say it. A lot of the people will say it. But it tries to explain to them that once used, always a user. Because the cannabis, the alcohol we are talking of, we call them gateway drugs. Gateway in that maybe you start doing cannabis now, and maybe a friend told you that if you take cannabis, you are going to be high. Then you do the first one, become dependent. Then if tomorrow 4 wraps of cannabis cannot give you that high, another person tells you try a crack or a meth, that will make you higher. Then you start doing crack, getting high. Then somebody tell you that, look, if you take crack and get too high, you need to step down, take a heroin. That's how it goes. So when it keeps on going this way, then you keep on spending. And of course, the health status, your health start degenerating. If you're a student, your academic performance goes down. And if you are a worker, of course, absenteeism, lateness to work, and excessive borrowing, even from colleagues. At the end of the month, you don't even know what you've done with your money. So it becomes a problem. So we in the field, some of the things we'll do is, of course, enlightenment. We're speaking about the media here, and the languages are very important to use. Of course, we don't say addict again. We say substance users. Because when you're telling somebody is an addict or dirty or a gutter, I mean, the person feels that he's being thrown to the floor. But when you use some subtle languages to get them up there, then you can negotiate a way out with them. That is some of the things we'll do.
The various presentations held the attendees and participants spellbound with information overload, which naturally elicited reactions in form of comments, questions, with answers readily provided.
How can we take this message down to the real source? People that are supposed to benefit for what we are discussing here today.
How can you help us to solve this noise that is going to, because it's also helping people to go into drug abuse. We are talking of youth here. And the youth want to be going harder, and they are taking drugs.
If you look at the entertainment industry, a lot of artists are promoting drugs abuse through their music. And my question is, what is NDLEA is doing to curtail that surge? Because some of these artists has millions of followers, and a lot of the youths are actually believing that going to that way is the way out.
It is important that the family unit be the starting point for educating children not to use drugs. And when we say educating children not to use drugs, It's not when they are 8, 9, 10. It's when they are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 onwards. If you wait till they are 8 years old, you have lost them.
And as for the deviation, I'm sure most of them pick the message. If somebody will kill the mother, why would we not kill opponents in campaign and all that? We are picking symptoms. Let's deal with this issue the way it is. It is hot. It is fresh. It is smoking. My dear brother, you mentioned the issue of Hada and Nohada. If you go to this airport here, you will weep for my country. More than 40% of these containers come with all these things we are talking about. I don't know who is unleashing this on this country. And it's Nigerians that are importing them. I did an assignment on behalf of the NSA for 3 months at this wharf. I don't know who is the manufacturer of drug here. We have no future when it comes to all those things if we continue the way it is. I think Nigerians need to resolve that this is a matter of priority to them. Your children want job, they cannot get the job because the industries cannot function. And we bring in a container we open, as if somebody went to the refuse dump in central London and loaded refuse and brought to this country. For what? And there are people who are supposed to have inspected these things before they enter here. Let's love ourselves. Let's care for ourselves. Think of yourself in me and myself in you. All this we're talking about and we're laughing. The destruction is too much. Somebody that has not eaten well, all he's thinking of is harder and harder. I don't know how it makes sense. However, you have asked what NAFDAC could do. I must tell you that if you look at it properly, NAFDAC too is overwhelmed now. I'm sure you know. As you are sowing it here, it's steering here and around like that. The destruction is much because it's also drug of addiction that you see in all those things. That you suddenly become so strong and you wouldn't remember your friend that took it and died and you associate it with somebody else, something else. So I think we're just picking symptoms. The value that you spoke about is the bane of our problem. Now we buy 10 million naira dining table and nobody sits on it to eat. Everybody takes his food and watches television, scattering all over the place. No opportunity of saying, sit down. This is how to eat. Don't eat and everybody see your mouth. You know, no opportunity. No time to eat together anymore. No prayers together. Everybody scattered. So how do we want to sort things out? Those who schooled in the late 60s and 70s, I want to ask you, is there anybody who does not know the best mathematician in Nigeria those days? Chike Obi. Simple. Who is the best mathematician in Nigeria now? Who cares? My father not be Dangote. Everybody wants to be Adeleke and Dangote. Anyhow, I don't know what sense that makes. Reverend Father, please explain this thing to us. There are people that are happier than 10 Dangotes put together and they don't have 1 million naira. They don't have it. It doesn't take you there. Now we have misled these children that the moment you become a billionaire, you are made. Where? The world problem is beyond having 10 million billionaire. And those are grandfathers that were well respected those days. If you think back now, you just discover that Baba had only 2 agbada. If you wear this one on this Sunday, you wear the other one on the other. And well respected and was a very happy man until. And you want your life to be like him now. So let's be sincere with this. How many of us can actually talk to our children that the path you are taking? I came home and I saw that the hairstyle I saw in my house. I said, no, it won't happen. And I explained why it won't happen. If you're in America, okay, they say it's freedom and all that. It's acceptable there. But it's not acceptable. The first thing for all this hairstyle you carry here is that you are on drugs, is that you are 419, is that you are fraudster. So let us localize these things. But surprisingly, some of our parents are the ones that will go and make this hair for them. Because you just came back from Canada. In Canada, you were not accepted. Don't you know? Go and find out now. Probably won't be able to tell you straight now. But they find a way of communicating with you that you are a stranger here. This is where you belong. So you've taught your children how to be Canadian. They've lost how to be Nigerian. In Canada, they are not accepted. By the time they are 40, 50, they get here, they have no foundation here. So they will float like that until they pass on.
The high point of the colorful ceremony was the investiture of some of the dignitaries into the Realnews Hall of Fame.
Group Managing Director, CEO of the Futureview Group, comprising Futureview Securities, Futureview Asset Management, Futureview Financial Services, and Futureview Bureau de Change Limited. Member Board of NESREA 2005 to 2007, Member of the Board of NDLEA, Member Governing Council of the Nigerian Legal Education Law School 2005 to 2007. He earned his medical degree from the Krakow State Medical University, Ukraine, and is a fellow of the prestigious National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. Dr. Dokun Adedeji is the Director General of Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry, KEDAM, a faith-based NGO that caters to the treatment and rehabilitation of drug addicts.
In response to the honor done them, one of the recipients, Mrs. Elizabeth Ngozi Ebi, thanked the organizers on behalf of others.
On behalf of my colleagues, the investees, we say thank you very much for honoring us, and may God continue to honor Realnews magazine.
The cutting of the colorful cake added spice and panache to the modest event as everybody present took turns to have a photo shoot with the queen of the moment, Mrs. Maureen Chigbo.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations.
Rounding off the event with the closing protocol, it afforded our media team to interact with the guests and organizers, their impression and takeaways from the very colorful event.
Thank you all. You can see that the news agency people and Mr. Isaac Iwure, also former editor-in-chief of News Agency of Nigeria, which was where I started my journalism career. He was also here. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all, and I pray, and Auntie Helen of NTA, always looking young. Thank you so much. I thank you all. Angel Gabriel and my President Emeritus, who is no longer, I think he's still around. Thank you. And the Secretary General of GOCOP. Thank you all so much.
This is the right topic at this time. And we appreciate that they are celebrating their 10th anniversary with a topic that is as topical as the issue of drug abuse amongst our youth. It's a scourge we all in our society have to stand up to it. And I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that once we apply ourselves collectively in a whole society approach, we'll get there.
As I said when I was speaking, we've been observing, we are involved in investigative journalism, so we've been observing things happening in the society, and we've seen the wreck, the havoc that drug abuse is causing in the country. In fact, one of the person that is not here that I had a discussion with, he put me through, I saw students climbing the roof to remove the ceiling, to remove the roof, just to buy drugs. Yes, to sell, to buy drugs. I was shocked, totally shocked. I said, no, most people don't even know that this is what is happening. So we have to bring it up. We have to look at it. We have to get somebody to start talking about it, because journalism is about also setting the agenda. When you see something going wrong, going wrong in the society, you have to bring it up. You have to do it as a watchdog, and then bring it to the people so that they can do something about it.
For me, I think it's an awakening for everyone as to the menace that we are facing as a country due to drug abuse. And it becomes important from all that we have discussed, the need for us to go back to the foundation and re-establish values, family values, so that the families can be in a strong position to support the growth of the family, the children, to make sure that they grow up to be good citizens of Nigeria.
Yeah, it's very encouraging for me, because about 15, 18 years ago, people were discussing this matter. So nobody wants to come out to say that we have this problem. And the thing was mounting and mounting. Now you can see a parent coming out to say that for 7 years my son was bad, we battled, and the guy is back, he's my best friend now. So it's something that can be cured. It's something that you can deal with. So if we all keep quiet, pretending that it's not happening, and people are dying slowly, so opening it up like this, in the midst of intellectuals and serious people, topmost of the journalism, makes me so satisfied.
I'm very grateful that I'm able to come for this meeting, this conference. If you listen to the submission of Brigadier General Buba Marwa, you know we are in trouble in this country, without exception. It is what the lawyer would call clear and present danger in terms of drug trafficking, drug abuse, and many more. So I agree with this discussion, and also Brigadier Marwa, that the problem is so enormous that we cannot leave it for NDLA alone. It has to be a collective general responsibility of all of us, both in the media, in the academia, in politics, religion, at home, and also even traditional rulers who should participate in trying to help us control this, yes.
Yeah, it's quite illuminating, inspiring. It has made us to appreciate the enormity of the problem at hand, the issue of drug trafficking and drug taking in this country. Many of us take it for granted. It's like, after all, it's not happening to me, I don't care. Some people are making money. So, I mean, we're all involved, and we owe it a duty to curb it.
And the takeaway is that we will use it again for motopark rallies, so as to let them know that there are inherent and hazards in taking drugs. As a parent, well, we've learned a lot that you have to go back to family value to make sure that you engage your children, you engage your family in ensuring that they stay off drugs so as to be able to maintain their sanity.
People should not feel that that drug person or that substance abuser or that victim is a next door neighbor that is right in your house. And you should not treat your children the way you were treated, and don't bring up your children the way you were brought up. because times have changed.
We wish Real News Magazine more success in years ahead as they bask in the euphoria of their 10th anniversary.